We'll power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed home battery storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash. So make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 9 p.m. This is Patrick Christys Tonight with me, Ben Leo.
But unfortunately, we've got a government that is, absolutely asleep at the wheel now.
There he is, the Prime Minister, who spent years in opposition accusing others of being asleep at the wheel, but now he's admitted he's done it himself. The Prime Minister faces a huge welfare vote in the Commons tomorrow, but Labour rebels still aren't happy.
There are still going to be disabled people, people with long-term conditions who will be affected by the changes that are currently on the bill.
So tonight, tensions on the channel between the British and the French laid bare in a GB News exclusive.
Could you prepare your seatbelts as we have no support and we have significant overloading on this migrant vessel? Over.
Elsewhere today, I absolutely love tennis, but I'm not sure I could have joined the 10,000 people who queued for the first day of Wimbledon. But the great British institution has undergone a somewhat controversial makeover this year by scrapping line judges and replacing them with Hawkeye technology. An ace decision or a massive double fault? And breaking tonight, it's been reported that BBC Director General Tim Davie was personally involved in the decision not to pull the plug on Bob Vylan at Glastonbury, and he was even in attendance at the festival when Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy called him to ask what the hell happened. Fleet Street legend Kelvin McKenzie. Let's rip on that imminently. Joining me on the panel tonight is Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, and the former Tory party chairman Sir Jake Berry. And how long do you reckon before The Matrix becomes real life?
哨声，这场练习赛是正式开始了。我们可以看到是红队率先。
Big show coming up, including the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. First, though, let's get your news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Ben, thank you very much. The top stories: a criminal investigation has been launched into the Glastonbury performances of Kneecap and Bob Vylan. In a statement, Avon and Somerset Police said video footage and also audio from Bob Vylan and Kneecap's performances at the festival on Saturday have been reviewed. The Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, says problems with broadcast at the festival should have been foreseeable. Bob Vylan have now been dropped by the United Talent Agency and their management. They've also had their US visas revoked ahead of a tour later on in the year because of their, quote, hateful tirade at Glastonbury. The BBC said earlier that they should have pulled the live stream of the rap duo's performance, which contained, quote, utterly unacceptable and anti-Semitic sentiments. A spokesman for the regulator Ofcom said they were very concerned about the live stream, and the BBC, quote, clearly has questions to answer. Whitehall sources have told GB News this evening that BBC Director General Tim Davie was at the festival when he was telephone called by the Culture Secretary. The government's U-turn on welfare cuts will cost taxpayers around £2.5 billion by 2030, the Work and Pensions Secretary has told MPs as she laid out concessions to Labour rebels. Liz Kendall said the costs and savings of the government's revised welfare package would be confirmed by the Office for Budget Responsibility in the autumn. Thousands of people are going to be forced into poverty because of changes to the system. Number 10 says the welfare system's broken. Here's Kemi Badenoch.
This is a government in chaos. Labour cannot govern. They came into office thinking it was going to be very easy, but what's happened is that because of COVID, we now have 1 million extra people on benefits. We need to get those people back into work. The bill just before COVID for health and disability benefits was 40 billion. It's going to be up to 100 billion on Labour's current plans. So they're not cutting the budget, they're just cutting how much they would increase it by. That is not good enough. We need to have people working. There are a lot of people who are genuinely disabled, who have significant conditions that need looking after.
Over 2,000 dog attacks were recorded on Royal Mail staff in the UK last year, the organisation says. The highest number of incidents occurred in the Sheffield and Portsmouth postcodes, with 66 and 60 attacks respectively. The Royal Veterinary College has raised concerns that dogs purchased during the COVID pandemic were more likely to display problem behaviours. And the world's oldest Grand Slam tennis tournament, Wimbledon, got underway today. It's been declared the hottest start to Wimbledon on record, with 29.7 degrees Celsius recorded at Kew Gardens, according to the Met Office. This year's tournament is the first in its history to have no line judges following the introduction of fully automated decisions. Those are the latest headlines for now. More in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening to you. Thanks for your company. The Prime Minister has finally admitted what we've known for a long time, and it's an accusation he all too willingly threw around when he was in opposition.
The Prime Minister's been asleep at the wheel. He's been slow. The communications has been terrible. It began to break down, frankly, when Dominic Cummings put forward a ridiculous defence of what he had done up in the north-east.
But unfortunately, we've got a government that is, absolutely asleep at the wheel now, dysfunctional.
They're asleep at the wheel.
Asleep at the wheel. That's Keir Starmer now, who's asleep at the wheel. And that's not just my opinion. It's the Prime Minister's own self-assessment. This was the Sunday Times front page yesterday, where The Prime Minister admitted he failed to get to grips with the revolt by Labour MPs over benefit cuts because he was distracted by the Middle East and a NATO summit. And he, of course, spent much of the last fortnight out of the country, as he does so often. And it's a fact, by the way, that the PM loves being abroad so much that at the end of last year, he'd embarked on more foreign trips than all his Tory predecessors. You have to ask yourself what the hell he's running away from. Not only wasn't he here for the release of the rape gangs report from Baroness Casey and PMQs that week, the Prime Minister failed to understand his own MPs were mounting a massive rebellion over plans to cut £5 billion from the welfare bill. Just like the winter fuel payment, the rape gangs inquiry and his Island of Strangers speech, he was forced to U-turn on the welfare cuts as he faced a hugely damaging defeat in the Commons tomorrow. Starmer's concessions included allowing 800,000 PIP claimants to keep part of their benefits, a backdown that will now only save £2 billion a year, rather than the initial £5 billion the government's expected to save by 2030. But tonight, ahead of the vote tomorrow, Rebel MPs are still saying the Prime Minister hasn't gone far enough.
Debbie, you were instrumental in negotiating the concessions from the government. Do they go far enough?
Unfortunately not. So absolutely recognise the significance of these concessions, so protecting existing claimants, and the majority of harms would be to existing PIP claimants. But there are still going to be disabled people with long-term conditions who will be affected by the changes that are currently on the bill.
Oh dear. Well, look, it's not even been a year in power, but Sir Keir Starmer has dealt with enough scandals, U-turns and garish polls that make the Tories look like amateurs. I guess that's what happens when every man and his dog, including the Prime Minister himself, knows he stands for absolutely nothing. Well, let's get the thoughts of my panel now. The former Conservative Party chairman, Sir Jake Berry, journalist and broadcaster Carol Malone, and the journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth. Sorry, Carol, you are Daily Express columnist, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Sorry to do you down. I know you dragged down to Benjamin's level, do you now? Welcome along, good evening.
Make sure you buy a copy.
Yes, buy a copy.
What day are you in, Carol?
Buy a paper.
Saturday.
There we go.
You should know that.
I'll get stuck into it over my muesli on Saturday morning. Anyway, serious matters, Carol. Sir Keir Starmer, massive vote in the Commons tomorrow.
Yeah.
Rebel Labour MPs still saying tonight, not enough.
You know, these MPs now have got him by the short and curlies now because he's going to have to do exactly what they say now for the rest of his premiership. He's finished. His credibility now is shot to pieces because of this. You know, he's saying he wasn't in the country to deal with this rebellion. He's not dealing with the rebellion now. All he's doing is conceding. He's actually scrapping most of the cuts that he said. But we had a moral duty to make. He said that just a few months ago. So, you know, and he's conceding now to this. But we still have the problem of the 313 billion welfare bill. You know, by the end of the decade, that bill alone is going to be more than transport, than social care and the police put together. And you still have the problem of what you're going to do about that. You know, we have 4 million kids between 16 and 25 now who are on some kind of disability or sickness benefit. That's just a nonsense. Yeah. You know, these are young people.
So you back the government then in their quest to try and sort this out?
Completely. You know, the benefits... You know, Labour have got to stop pretending that every single person on benefits actually is entitled to them or needs them. We know it's not the case. We know that there are some people who need them, but there are many, many people who could be off them and at work and they're not doing it. And Starmer was going to tackle that. He said we had a moral duty to tackle that. And what he's done is caved into these rebels to save his job.
Is he finished? We had the rape gangs inquiry. He was out of the country, by the way, for the release of Baroness Casey's report.
Do you know how many votes he's had since he came to power in Parliament?
How many?
7. As opposed to Boris's first year, 52 votes. So that and to say, you know, he shouldn't have been abroad. Of course he shouldn't. He's grandstanding, doing absolutely nothing. But his credibility is shot now. The rumours are he's going to be gone before the May local elections.
All right.
Mainly because of
Benjamin, we had just before Labour won the election last July. It's a year next week. I think we had this red utopia from the likes of you and your Labour supporters, and you know, Blair version, Blair 2.0. It's not gone very well, has it? After 12 months,
I think the rumour that Keir Starmer was gone by May might be one that Carol just started.
No, it is not. It's been punted by quite a lot of people who know not much more about politics.
To be replaced by who, Carol?
Oh, well, who knows that? I mean, with the list, we know...
Andy Burnham's on manoeuvres, though, isn't he, this week?
The most pathetic list you'll ever see of Labour.
I don't think that's in serious contention, and that's because there is no serious movement whatsoever to get rid of Keir Starmer.
Yes,
and actually, I'm quite grateful for the kind of leadership that we're getting at the moment. When you think about the constant chaos, the flip-flopping of governments and prime ministers that we endured. I mean, look, when Jake was in charge, we had 3 prime ministers in 1 year. That's absurd.
I think the public might welcome
that. We call Mr. Flip-Flop Mr. Starmer. We call him Mr. Flip-Flop because he's U-turned so many times.
So what you've got here is actually...
Were you at Pride celebrations this weekend?
Why? He's just...
Are you still drinking?
I was not. I'm in completely sound mind. You know, what you've got here is that the welfare bill, I think it is a moral duty, as lots of people have said, to bring the welfare bill down because it's shot up since COVID. The Conservatives presided over the biggest rise we've ever seen in that bill in the shortest period of time. And so you have to deal with it. But there were valid questions about the fact that this personal independence payment, that is something that helps people do their jobs. And there were valid criticisms that there were some people would no longer be economically active if they didn't have the support. Frankly, I think a Prime Minister who listens to that, tries to affect it so that it no longer has that flaw, is the exact Prime Minister you want. And let's be honest, he's already lasted 7.5 times as long as you guys' favourite Liz Truss. So that's what I call strong and
Liz
stable.
Truss was stitched up by the Bank of England, by the so-called deep state, probably by Rishi Sunak as well. Liz Truss is probably the best Prime Minister we were never allowed to have. So have that on record.
Here's a little stat for you. Labour heralds 200 seats where the number of people claiming PIP, personal independence payments, is bigger than its MP's majority, which would explain why they're fighting to keep these benefits.
To the absolute chaos that this government is presiding over. They won and saying the Conservatives have created chaos. I mean, you know, we did. It at least took us 14 years to do it. They're not even 14 months into it. What have we had from this Prime Minister? We've had a U-turn on winter fuel. We're now getting a U-turn on benefits. I think what's really scary about this and his inability to actually govern this country in a reasonable way is that in the Comprehensive Spending Review, they committed to nearly £300 billion worth of additional spending. And the markets, and if you talk to people in the City of London, as I do most days, the markets have effectively suspended their disbelief of Labour's ability to actually deliver spending cuts to fund that huge thing of public spending that they're going for until the budget. But what will happen is, if they absolutely fail to get fairly minimal cuts to the welfare budget, which, by the way, I personally don't really think go far enough, and I say that as a man who's got a disabled child. You know, I don't think they go far enough. I think we've got to get Britain back working again. But their inability to get this through to Parliament is seriously going to spook the markets. And what Liz Truss said, that crazy mini budget that people talk about, was £25 billion of unfunded tax cuts. We're talking about £300 billion, which allegedly is going to be paid for by spending cuts. They can't even get, you know, the winter fuel through. They can't even get this through. This government is in chaos. It's about to lose its right and its ability to govern, and it's left.
Yeah, there were similar comments in the Sunday Times yesterday when Sir Keir Starmer gave some comments to them. The Times were basically saying in their comment piece that this is a government that's got no money and has not an iota on how to raise any money or make money.
Well, what they're going to put taxes up. We're going to put taxes up massively in the autumn.
I was just going to say, you know, if you talk about U-turns, the other thing he U-turned on, remember the speech he made about the island of strangers? He's U-turned on that now, and he's actually said he didn't mean to say it. It's the only thing he's ever said that the majority of British people agree with. Well, and he's backtracked on that, and that's because of these Labour
Every time Keir Starmer says something that I might agree with, he changes his mind.
Isn't the problem that, and I'll say it again, I've said it over the past week, even with the likes of Jeremy Corbyn, right, I don't agree with his politics at all, but at least you know what he stands for, and he's held the same moral principles for decades. With Keir Starmer, same with Donald Trump, same with Nigel Farage. With Keir Starmer, you don't know what he stands for. You don't know where his allegiances lay. You don't know what his moral principles are, what his ambitions are for the country. He's very inauthentic. In fact, I don't think he even knows what he stands for.
Jeremy Corbyn might have had principles. I'm not sure how moral some of them were.
Well, at least he's stayed consistent. That's my point.
But I actually think that's a really wrong-headed way to view leadership. Actually, leadership and what you want in a government and a Prime Minister is being able to adjust to the events in front of you.
You're just flapping around.
What's the phrase? phrase about its events, my dear.
He's
And
not
the truth
been in
is,
this country for the events in front of him.
the truth is that someone that wasn't willing to change their agenda, to change their approach, who didn't listen, would be a bad Prime Minister. And that's the opposite of what Keir Starmer is. He's a very good leader. And just to answer very quickly, just to answer Jake's point, lots of the spending is on things like getting lots of houses built, getting airports built, fixing the infrastructure in the country, the NHS hospitals. These are essential to getting Britain back going.
There's no money.
Who's going into those houses, Benjamin?
Yes.
Me. No.
Immigrants. Do you know that 30,000, in the last 18 months, 30,000 millionaires and wealth creators have...
Well, that's a completely false statistic.
No, it is not.
It is a complete... Yes, because I know where it's from, and it's from an organisation that sells migration visas to low-tax
I've been down this road.
Absolutely.
I've been down this road with Prime Ministers. When they lose control of their own parliamentary party, it's absolutely clear Keir Starmer's done. We've got over 100 Labour MPs, less than a year, in an open revolt, signing amendments to legislations to defeat their own government. Once you lose control of your parliamentary party, it's finished.
And also, just to add, Jake, as well, another 40 rebels over the inheritance tax on farms, which is brewing as well. I guess we need to move the conversation on in the days and weeks and months to come to who will replace Keir Starmer. Angela Rayner. Ed Miliband is very popular within the Labour Party.
The ones that were put forward today, Bridget Phillipson.
That's not true at all.
I've heard polls.
Bridget Phillipson, Louise Haigh. I mean, good God. Rayner, who was the other one? Some lady I've never heard of, who's been in politics for 6 minutes. She's a contender. They're just people you don't want as a leader.
Dare I say, people that don't want a Labour government would be scared of what comes next, because Wes Streeting would be the next Prime Minister, and he is a much more effective politician.
Well, I think I agree with you for once. He's probably the most capable Labour minister going, and he actually has...
What's he done for the NHS? What?
I don't know. Well,
we had 100,000 more operations.
Beyond anything, he's not afraid to come and tell you and answer questions from people who don't necessarily agree with him, which is like a good starting point. Right, panel, thank you very much. Good start. As the temperatures start to soar, I didn't write this, we've got the coolest cash prize of the summer to be won. A totally tax-free £54,321 up for grabs in our latest Great British Giveaway. Here's all the details you need to win.
The Great British Giveaway is now even greater, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally tax-free £54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Imagine what you could do with that. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Very good luck to you. Right, coming up, the government's in turmoil over Britain's birth rate crisis. The Education Secretary says we need to have more children, but the Prime Minister says it's a personal choice. So who is right? Who do you think? Is it really the job of politicians to tell Brits to have more kids? That's next.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
At GB News, we are proud to stand for you, for the Britain you love, for the communities you live in. That's what makes us the fearless champions of Britain. Its voices and its values. Because we, at GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Ben Leo, just for tonight. And it's time now for our heads-to-head. Right, well, Britain's gone from baby boom to baby bust, hasn't it? And even politicians are now raising the alarm because official figures show fertility rates in England and Wales dropped to 1.44 children per woman in 2023. That is the lowest since records began in the 1930s and half of levels seen during a mid-1960s baby boom. Education Secretary Bridget Phillipson today waded into the crisis, urging young Brits to have more kids. Writing in the Daily Telegraph, she said, "I want more young people to have children, if they so choose, to realise the ordinary aspirations so many share to create the moments and memories that make our lives fulfilling." But it seems the Prime Minister didn't get the message. Asked if he agreed with his Education Secretary, a Number 10 spokesman said she was very clear in that article that having children was a personal choice. That's entirely consistent with the PM's language, where he said, "I'm not going to tell people how to live their lives. Having a family is a personal and individual choice." So tonight I'm asking, is it really the job of politicians to tell Brits to have more kids? We're going head-to-head on this now are the broadcaster Lewis Oakley and the mother and commentator Annalise Colwell. Good evening. Thank you for your company, both of you. Annalise, you first. What's your take on this? Actually, I spoke to Bridget Phillipson on GB News Breakfast maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she said to me, and this clip went viral, that the government was taking into account the low birth rate when planning for state school space for children. It was a discussion about private school kids. So on one hand, it seems like the government is potentially, I don't know, taking advantage, I guess, of the low birth rate. It's suiting them. And yet, on the other side of things, she's coming out today saying, oh, no, we need to have more children. What's your take on it?
My take on it is that the government should not be involved in making decisions about how people reproduce. I think Bridget Phillipson could do much better by focusing on education and trying to do her job rather than telling us all what we should be doing. I don't think it should be government policy at all to be telling us these things. They should be focusing on creating policies that remove the barriers that prevent families from making their self-funded and preferred decisions themselves.
So what, in your view, what are the barriers that stop people having children?
I think the biggest one at the moment is probably taxation. I think that the government, successive governments actually, to be fair, have created a tax system that makes it very difficult for people to afford to keep money in their pockets, and particularly single income families are penalised. And I think a lot of mums and dads possibly, would actually like to bring up their own children. So they're talking about providing more and more state intervention for children, but actually people want money in their pockets. They want to be able to actually make their own decisions. And I think encouraging personal responsibility is a far better way forward than creating a bigger and bigger state that is taking the decisions out of our own hands.
OK, Lewis Oakley, are you concerned about the plunging birth rate?
I'm not. Listen, it's a complicated picture. I would say I'm concerned that there are people in this country that want to have children and feel like they can't afford it. I am concerned that there are people in this country that maybe would want to have kids and feel that they are discouraged from it. Plunging birth rate, I don't know. That's a science conversation, really, because how many people are we going to need?
Well, it's not really. I mean, it's a whole different. It's a cultural thing, Lewis. It's a cultural thing, Lewis. It's a societal thing. Do you want in 100 years a British population, a native British population of, I don't know, less than 20%? Or do you want to change the very face and identity of the country? I mean, it's not a science thing. It's a love for your country thing.
But who are we talking about? Who are those Brits going to be? If you're talking about that as an immigration thing of like, oh, well, we'll have to import more people, that's a whole different thing. I'm just saying...
It's the same thing.
Brits
aren't having babies.
76 million people now. Do we need 76 million people in the future? Who knows? I don't know. As I say, it's a science thing. But on the principle of this debate, which is should the government actually be telling us what to do? Look, I'm not a fan of the government telling us what to do, but I do think in this situation it is important because they can say what they want, but for years now we have had governments quietly discouraging family life. As we've sort of just talked about, the taxation is one thing, the rocketing house prices another, the fact that a lot of people don't live near their family anymore. It's very hard to have children. As someone that's got 3, I can tell you it's a really hard thing to have children, and government policy has already gotten involved. So to this point of like, oh, well, they should stay out of family life. They're already involved in it. And actually, I think it's really encouraging to hear that, oh, they actually do want us to have children, because I think for years now, it's not just the financials of it as well. It's the idea of, I think there's a lot of people now that would say, oh, we don't want to have children because of the climate. There's a lot of people that probably say, oh, we don't want to have children now because... Say again?
Are you one of those people? Well, I know you've got 3. Would you?
I've got 3 kids. I'd have more. For me, it's more of probably more of a money thing and a resource thing, actually, of like the time for them.
Annalise, can I ask you, please, would you encourage policies such as we see in Hungary, where I think it's if a mother has 3 or 4 children, they are pretty much tax exempt?
I definitely think tax needs to be looked at. I think people need to have more money in their own pockets to make their own decisions about how they spend things and how they do things. I think it's right that we look at the quality of our children's lives. So you need to be able to fund them. And I think that's a big issue for a lot of people. If you have more than 2 children, for example, you need a bigger car, you need to spend more money. I chose to have 2 children because I wanted to privately educate my children, and I could only afford 2. In fact, I could barely afford 2. Would I have had more had I had more money in my pocket? Absolutely. And, we chose for my husband to work and earn the majority of the money to bring into our house. I do bits and pieces and always have done. And we've got taxed to the hilt. So...
But Annalise, can I interject? Can I just politely suggest that you don't need a big car? I mean, you may not even need a car if you can't afford one. You don't have to send your kids to private school. But plenty of people get along with bikes and walking to state schools. I mean, I don't think that should be a reason.
You're talking about people who live in urban areas. I live out in the country. Could I not live in the country? Well, I could do, but basically you're then asking me to make a whole load of decisions that are not my preferred choices. And I, as an individual in this country who is contributing to the country, I should be able to make my preferred choices. I should have those options. I live in the country. There aren't a lot of schools around here. The one school that is here is quite good, but it's very, very full. It doesn't do a lot of sport. My children were very sporty. I do need a car. There is no bus service here. So I have to have a car. If I wanted
this is why you should
children, I would have to get a bigger car.
This is why you should be excited, though, that the government is getting involved, because now you can hold them to account. Now, in a few years' time, if things don't change, you can say, hold on, you said that you wanted more people to have kids. Where are the new schools? Where are all these things that it was meant to come in to make it easier to make people have children?
You're conflating the issue. The government is there to make policies. that, remove those barriers that prevent us from making our preferred choices. That is what they are there to do. But they're not to tell us how and when we have children. That's not their job. They need to focus
she's
on
not
what
coming
they
in a
actually do.
COVID way. She's not saying they're going to lock you in your house if you don't have kids. She's saying if you want to, we want you to have children. There is a bit of a difference.
Maybe they should do an eat out to help out kind of thing, where you can you get some vouchers to wine and dine your husband or wife or something and make an evening of it. And who knows what would happen after that. Guys, thank you very much for your company. Appreciate it. Lewis Oakley, the broadcaster, and the mother and commentator Annalise Colwell. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let us know what you think about that at home, gbnews.com/your say. I'm kind of with Annalise on that. As a Brit, and especially as a young people, I know many young people in their 20s and early 30s, if you look around at the state of the country these days, we're spending billions and billions of pounds on people, quite frankly, who shouldn't be in the country in the first place. And then at the same time, native Brits can't get houses, they struggle to get doctor's appointments, they struggle to find places for their kids' schools, they can't afford their energy bills, the cost of living's through the roof. And I kind of don't blame them for not wanting to have kids or even, being a victim of not being able to have kids because of societal consequences. So, yeah, I feel your pain. Right, coming up, 10,000. Yes, 10,000 tennis fans queued up for the first day of Wimbledon today in the soaring heat, by the way. But can you guess which tradition has been ditched in favour of AI? I'll reveal all when I'm joined by a former British tennis player who's played at Wimbledon. That's next.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Temperatures remain above average across much of Europe over the next few days. Plenty of sunshine to come as well, but sunshine's not everywhere. Cloudier skies for parts of Madeira down into the Canary Islands. 1 or 2 light showers are possible, but much of the Mediterranean will be sunny, though some thunderstorms possible across the Alps on Tuesday afternoon. 1 or 2 showers for eastern Greece into Turkey, but otherwise plenty of hot sunshine, and there's very little change over the next few days. Temperatures above average.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Good evening. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, it is going to be another warm and uncomfortably humid night for many places towards the southeast, but we do have some fresher air starting to make its way in. The fresher air is behind a frontal system which is lingering across northern and western parts at the moment. That's already brought a fair amount of rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland today, and we're going to see some more rain for a little while yet, but the front is going to ease, so that rain breaking up as it edges into parts of northern England overnight. Away from the band of rain towards the southeast, lots of dry weather, some clear skies, but it is going to be warm, it's going to be humid, some places staying above 20 Celsius, so a difficult night for sleeping for some. Meanwhile, towards the northwest, like I said, there's some fresher air coming in, so it's actually going to be a bit cooler here first thing on Tuesday morning, and quite bright and sunny across parts of northern and western Scotland, also across Northern Ireland too. For eastern and southern Scotland and also across parts of northern England into northern and western Wales, a bit more cloud around, could be some outbreaks of rain coming and going as well, but across the rest of England and Wales, a fine start to the day. Yes, it is going to be warm first thing, but there will also be plenty of sunshine on offer as well. As we go through the day, lots of sunshine continuing, particularly towards the southeast, plenty of sunshine here, and with that hot air, we're going to see temperatures rising, perhaps even higher than today, 35, 36 Celsius, not out of the question. A bit fresher towards the north and west, and watch out for some heavy showery bursts developing, particularly across parts of northern England and southern Scotland. Some further showery rain across the eastern parts as we go through into Wednesday, even some showery bursts pushing into parts of the southeast, and a few scattered showers coming in from the west northwest later as well. But in between those zones, another largely fine day for many on Wednesday, but a markedly fresher feel for many as some cooler air starts to make its way in, with some more changeable weather later this week.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight with me, Ben Leo, only on GB News. And eagle-eyed tennis fans may have noticed a glaring difference when Wimbledon got underway early this morning. Robots have taken over. Of course they have. Yes, the always well-dressed and sharp-eyed human line judges, there they are on your screen now if you're watching on telly, have been replaced by AI-powered machines for the first time in Wimbledon's 149-year history. But that didn't seem to dampen the spirits of the more than 10,000 tennis fans that queued up to watch play today. And by the way, props to them for withstanding the epic heat. Well, I'm delighted to be joined now by the former British tennis player Barry Cowan, who has competed at Wimbledon. And Barry, I'm going to start with this. You took a certain Pete Sampras to 5 sets, no less. In what year was it?
2001, yeah, 24 years ago. I can't believe it was that long. But
what do you remember of that day?
Great memories, actually, Ben. And what was nice was I played arguably the greatest grass court player there's ever been. And I played my greatest match in front of 11,000 or so spectators. So, yeah, it was a real thrill. And I think, the one thing I did take, because in my level, was obviously not the very, very top level that we see from the likes of Alcaraz and Draper, etc. But I think if you work hard, then you get some rewards along the line.
Oh, but Barry, well done. What an achievement. You were a wild card, weren't you, that year in 2001?
I was, yes, yeah.
And you've been at Wimbledon today, of course, enjoying the atmosphere and the heat as well. But we are missing something, aren't we, Barry, for the first time in Wimbledon's history?
We are, and electronic line calling, well, it came in across the tour universally, apart from the US Open, apart from the French Open at the beginning of this year. And I certainly see why Wimbledon have done it, because I guess they don't want, apart from Roland Garros, they don't want to be the only ones. But personally, I think it's a bit of a shame. I think that you're breaking with tradition. I understand the game needs to move on. But I think the couple of factors that I see are important is what are the progression of lines people, because it's not just about the main tour, it's also about the challenger circuit, it's also about other levels that you need that progression. And I'll tell you one thing, as a commentator, and I experienced that on day one with Alcaraz, is when you are high up, our commentary box is high up, sometimes you are waiting for the lines person to see their hand signals, whether it's in or out. We don't have that now. And there was quite a few occasions where the crowd thought that Alcaraz or Fognini had hit the ball in, because their noise was louder than the automated line calling. So, we don't know. So we're kind of going blind a few times. So I think that's something that needs to change. But, personally for me, I would have liked to have stuck with the lines people.
I mean, why you could have just had both, right? You could have had line judges, and you've got the challengers, of course. So why not just say, well, if you're not totally confident with the line judges, just go to Hawkeye or AI?
Well, like 2024 and 2023.
Exactly. Last year,
like it has been since 2006. I mean, for me, there's no doubt that the introduction of Hawkeye in 2006 was the first time. I think it's been a huge advantage for the sport. It's not like football. It's not subjective. It's transparent. You know whether the ball is in or out. And I actually like that added drama of the crowd when someone challenges and you've got a big moment. This might be championship point. This might be a time to win Wimbledon, and you're waiting for that 5 seconds to see whether the ball lands on in or out. Unfortunately, you won't have that anymore.
What a shame. Well, Barry, tell us, please, before we let you go, what was it like today on the first day? Wimbledon is a great British institution. 10,000 fans queuing, I was reading, since noon on Friday to get to the front of the queue. And today it was very, very hot indeed. What was it like today?
It was great. I hope Wimbledon never loses that. I think the queue is part of the tradition. I mean, some people, would even prefer to queue than actually get a ticket right at the door, because it is part of the experience. But in terms of the heat, and I was asked this earlier on today, Ben, that, it's hot today, but all these players have experienced worse conditions. I mean, if you play in America in the middle of August, it is hot, but it's also incredibly humid. So, I think they are well used to it.
Yeah.
And Alcaraz was tested, but it was a good day for Britain, actually. We had a lot of really good results.
Emma Raducanu played as well, didn't she? What was the score? Is she through to the next round?
She is through comfortably against a young British player. So we've got 3 young British players. Unfortunately, they lost today, but they will get their chance. And, for Raducanu, I expected her to win comfortably, but certainly tougher tests lie ahead for Raducanu. I mean, if she gets through a second round match, which I would make her the underdog, she has to play Sabalenka in the third round, which, of course, she'd make her the massive underdog because Sabalenka's my tip to win the title.
Yeah, and Katie Boulter, she stuns the number 9 seed, is that right?
Yeah, great win against Badosa. They played once last year on the clay, and it was actually a sticky period in the spring for Boulter. Clay's never been her best surface, but to come out and play as well as she did on the centre court crowd, that was a fantastic effort from Katie.
Yeah, great stuff. Flying the flag for Britain. Very good. Looking forward as well to Raducanu and Alcaraz in the doubles as well, the mixed doubles rather.
Well, unfortunately, that will happen in the US Open. I mean, that's...
Oh, that's gone, has it? That was the US Open?
Well, it's the US Open. It will happen. That
will happen.
Yeah, that will be something unique, something different. The US Open have got this trial mixed doubles a few days before the tournament starts, where all the top singles players are playing mixed doubles. So, maybe the majors might follow, Ben.
Great stuff. Barry, one last question. How much strawberries and cream have you downed on day one, if any?
You know what? I didn't have any. They've actually gone up, but they're still fairly cheap.
How much? Come on, tell us.
I think it's £2.80 now.
Bargain. Bargain,
well,
£2.80.
When you're paying that much, you've got to cover it in cream.
Yeah, nice one. Barry, thank you very much. Really appreciate your company. Love talking to you. Enjoy the rest of the tournament.
All the best.
Right, coming up. The BBC's been forced, and this is a big development tonight, actually. This is some damning revelations. The BBC's been forced into a humiliating apology after broadcasting Bob Vylan's controversial chants at Glastonbury. But is it too little too late? There's reports tonight that the Director General of the BBC, Tim Davie, was involved in the decision by the BBC not to pull that coverage live as it was happening. And indeed, there's other reporting going on tonight that Tim Davie was at Glastonbury when the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, called him to ask what the hell was going on. It's an extraordinary development. Kelvin Mackenzie, former editor of The Sun, will be here to get stuck into it. Back in a tick.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GBNews family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christys Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christys Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight with me, Ben Leo, just for tonight. Now, the Daily Telegraph are reporting tonight that BBC boss Tim Davie was involved in the decision not to pull the live stream of Bob Vylan's Glastonbury performance from iPlayer while attending the festival himself. He was there. Police are now investigating the punk band after they led crowds in a Death to the RDF chant. We've all heard it over the weekend. And they're not the only ones in hot water either. The media regulator Ofcom, our good friends, are investigating the BBC for broadcasting the performance. And earlier today, the corporation was forced into a rather humiliating apology, admitting that they should have pulled the live performance of the show. Well, I'm joined now by former editor of The Sun, Kelvin Mackenzie. Kelvin, good evening. Extraordinary development this evening with this detail about Tim Davie. Not only was he involved in the sort of discussion and decision-making about the iPlayer situation, but he was also at Glastonbury. I hope he was working, but, I mean, he could have been partying. We don't know.
Well, he was the one that said that it shouldn't be on demand, right? Well done, Tim. However, because he didn't say anything about the live streaming, it was on there for another 5 hours. And now even the BBC is saying tonight, we should have pulled it. Look, he's a curious mixture. He's both the editor of the BBC and he's the chief executive, OK? Actually, a preposterous idea. I've done both. You can't do both. One wants to be cautious and the other wants to be a madman. I think he's in a degree of trouble, and you know that they're in a degree of trouble when even Lisa Nandy, who if she had one more brain cell, she'd be a keep left sign, is now saying that there is a leadership issue that has to be resolved in relation to anti-Semitic behaviour. But the other people to look at are the people who run festivals now. So festivals have now turned into political parties. You know, in the 60s, they were places of joy and lots of people, you know, making love and had long blonde hair and everything was great. Now, everybody is involved in some kind of political statement. This jerk here, who honestly, I don't know. I've only just heard of Rod Stewart, so I'm probably the wrong person to judge Pop. But the reality is that this was a basically not quite unknown, but very little known act, which has now become, because they deliberately, and by the way, if you look into their CV, they had a long history of attacking, of being pro-Gaza, right?
Well, not just pro-Gaza, Kelvin. Sorry to interrupt, not just pro-Gaza. On my show last night, I revealed the BBC's been championing this guy. His name's Pascal Robinson-Foster since 2006. There's videos of him threatening to punch fans at gigs. There's a video of him performing at Glastonbury in a BBC studio in 2022, rapping about digging up the grave of Margaret Thatcher. It goes on and on. So the BBC knew about this guy.
Yes, and but the whole atmosphere of festivals is changing. So if you're basically a small-time band, you want to become a big-time band, just be anti-Semitic and you'll get tremendous coverage. And the problem is, in our country right now, there is a following wind for the anti-Semites.
Who's to blame for that, Kelvin?
Pardon?
Who's to blame for that? How did we get here?
Well, it's because I think actually in our country right now, the young people think it is fashionable, right, to actually focus on what happened in Gaza and not look at what the cause of this war was. But look, that's politics. People go there for music. They don't want this stuff. why don't the promoters of the music festivals, why don't they say you can have any great music you like, but if you've got political opinions, keep them to yourself? But actually, people now believe that they can make more money by being anti-Semitic than they can by coming up with decent music. And that is a major problem for our country. But however, a major problem for the BBC is why is it that they keep on getting involved in these kinds of issues? It was only half an hour ago that they had to apologize for running a documentary which they didn't know that the son of a Hamas official was actually the person doing the presenting of it. So how does this happen? I'll tell you why it happens, because nobody is concentrating and nobody is taking responsibility.
Yeah, and also you had the December 2023, or was it 24, the missile strike, the Hamas missile strike, which went awry and hit a hospital. The BBC come out and say, yeah, it was Israel. It's like, come on, do your job. That's the basics. And it turned out to be basically one of their own that are blown up in their own backyard for Hamas. Just briefly, Kelvin, just briefly, sorry, what should happen to Tim Davie? Will he resign, do you think?
I tell you, it would only take one more turn of the screw for him to accept that he was responsible for the action. So we're just waiting for what was the detail. What was the detail? I think he's in a degree of trouble.
Do you care if he was there partying at Glastonbury? Does it make a difference to anything?
I think he's entitled to go down. After all, it's our money down there. They're employing literally hundreds and hundreds of BBC employees. If he's gone down there actually to glad hand and say, thank you very much for all the work you're doing, that's fine. But when he's asked to make a proper decision, instead of saying, actually, it's not only not going on demand, we're taking it off air. And the reason that they didn't take it off air, he said, because there were certain technical issues. Come on, they have a bigger issue than a technical issue right now. So that showed a fundamental lack of judgment by Davie. So I'm afraid, you know, if there's one more thing that comes out, I'm afraid he'll have to go.
Yeah. Kelvin, thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Kelvin Mackenzie, former editor of The Sun, Fleet Street legend. We'll chat again soon. Cheers, Kelvin. On the claims that Tim Davie made the decision to keep Bob Villan on iPlayer, a BBC spokesperson has told GB News this is categorically untrue. The Director General was informed of the incident after the performance, and at that point he was clear, it should not feature in any other Glastonbury coverage. And speaking more generally about the incident, a BBC spokesperson has said the performance was part of a live stream of the West Holt stage on BBC iPlayer. The judgment on Saturday to issue a warning on screen while streaming online was in line with our editorial guidelines. In addition, we took the decision not to make the performance available on demand. The team were dealing with a live situation, but with hindsight, we should have pulled the stream during the performance. We regret this did not happen. In light of this weekend, we'll look at our guidance around live events so we can be sure teams are clear on when it is acceptable to keep output on air. There we go. Right, don't forget, you can stay with us all day on GB News, not just on TV, but on your radio and your smart speaker. To listen to us on your smart speaker, just say, play GB News on TuneIn. OK, coming up, a GB News exclusive. You won't want to miss this. I've got hold of a top-secret recording that lays bare the absolutely fractious relationship between the French and British officials on the front line of the small boats crisis. We've got hold of it today. It's a recording from a Border Force vessel on the Channel, and there are pleas from the British to the French to sort out an overcrowded migrant dinghy. The reaction from the French will leave you gobsmacked. That plus more of the first newspaper front pages, hot off the press in just a tick. Let's get your weather though.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, it is going to be another warm and uncomfortably humid night for many places towards the southeast, but we do have some fresher air starting to make its way in. The fresher air is behind a frontal system which is lingering across northern and western parts at the moment. That's already brought a fair amount of rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland today, and we're going to see some more rain for a little while yet, but the front is going to ease, so that rain breaking up as it edges into parts of northern northern England overnight. Away from the band of rain towards the southeast, lots of dry weather, some clear skies, but it is going to be warm, it's going to be humid, some places staying above 20 Celsius, so a difficult night for sleeping for some. Meanwhile, towards the northwest, like I said, there's some fresher air coming in, so it's actually going to be a bit cooler here first thing on Tuesday morning, and quite bright and sunny across parts of northern and western Scotland, also across Northern Ireland too. For eastern and southern Scotland and also across parts of northern England into northern and western Wales, a bit more cloud around, could be some outbreaks of rain coming and going as well, but across the rest of England and Wales, a fine start to the day. Yes, it is going to be warm first thing, but there will also be plenty of sunshine on offer as well. As we go through the day, lots of sunshine continuing, particularly towards the southeast, plenty of sunshine here, and with that hot air, we're going to see temperatures rising, perhaps even higher than today, 35, 36 Celsius, not out of the question. A bit fresher towards the north and west, and watch out for some heavy showery bursts developing, particularly across parts of northern England and southern Scotland. Some further showery rain across the eastern parts as we go through into Wednesday, even some showery bursts pushing into parts of the southeast, and a few scattered showers coming in from the west northwest later as well. But in between those zones, another largely fine day for many on Wednesday, but a markedly fresher feel for many as some cooler air starts to make its way in, with some more changeable weather later this week.
A positive outlook through the night will power through to a bright day ahead. Boxed Home Battery Storage, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine having an extra £1,000 to spend each week for an entire year. £54,321 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to spend however you like. £54,321 in cash could be landing in your bank account this year. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good evening, it's 10 p.m. This is Patrick Christys Tonight with me, Ben Leo. Tensions on the channel between the British and the French laid bare in a GB News exclusive.
Could you prepare your seaboat as we have no support and we have significant overloading on this migrant vessel? Over.
All the details on that coming up imminently. And breaking tonight, it's been reported that BBC Director General Tim Davie was personally involved in the decision not to pull the Bob Vylan performance at Glastonbury. And, get this, he was even in attendance at the festival, partying or working, we don't know yet, when Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy called him to ask what the hell happened. That news has made the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers. I'll bring you them hot off the press with my panel. And tonight, it's Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth, and the former Tory party chairman Sir Jake Berry. And how long do you reckon before The Matrix becomes real life?
哨声，这场练习赛是正式开始了。我们可以看到是红队率先。
Good evening to you. Big show coming up, including the first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages and that GB News exclusive, the classified recording between the British and the French on the channel, which lays bare tensions between the two nations over the migrant crisis. That's next. First, though, let's get your news headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Ben, thank you. The top stories this evening. GB News can confirm this evening that almost 900 small boat migrants crossed the English Channel today. Provisional figures showed 880 migrants crossed in at least 14 small boats throughout the day, with the last boatload arriving into Dover Harbour just after 9 p.m. Those latest arrivals take the number of migrants who've made the illegal crossings so far this year to just short of 20,000. That figure is 45% ahead of the number who'd crossed at the same point last year. Elsewhere, a criminal investigation has now been launched over performances by Bob Vylan and Kneecap at Glastonbury on Saturday. That's according to Avon and Somerset Police. The force said it had appointed a senior detective to investigate whether comments made by either act amounted to a criminal offence after reviewing footage. Police haven't specified which part of Bob Vylan or Kneecap said would be subject to the criminal investigation. A statement added this has been recorded as a public order incident at this time while our inquiries are at an early stage. Speaking in Parliament today after the announcement, the Culture Secretary Lisa Nandy called the scenes broadcast appalling and unacceptable. Bob Vylan have now had their US visas revoked ahead of a tour later in the year. The BBC said earlier that they should have pulled the live stream of the rap duo's performance, which contained, quote, utterly unacceptable and anti-Semitic sentiments. Whitehall sources have told GB News today that the BBC Director General Tim Davie was at the festival when he was phoned by Lisa Nandy. And some breaking news now that the King has agreed to scrap the royal train after approving its decommissioning following decades of service. King Charles and other members of the royal family will rely on 2 new helicopters when the 9-carriage train stops running, according to the annual royal accounts, which have just been published. Our royal correspondent Cameron Walker has more.
King Charles has decided to scrap the use of the royal train, partly because the costs were about to spiral. It's set to be decommissioned in 2027. The Prince of Wales is said to support that decision. Now, this comes as the palace publishes the annual Sovereign Grant Report. That is the public money used to fund the monarchy. It also includes the travel of the royal family, the official travel, including the most expensive travel of the 2024-25 financial year, which was the Australia and Samoa visit, costing more than £400,000 of public money.
In other news, the government's U-turn on welfare cuts will cost taxpayers around £2.5 billion by 2030, the Work and Pensions Secretary has told MPs as she laid out concessions to Labour rebels. Liz Kendall said the costs and savings of the government's revised welfare package would be confirmed by the Office for Budget Responsibility in the autumn. Thousands of people are going to be forced into poverty because of those changes to the welfare system. Number 10 says the system is broken. And the UK experienced the peak of a 4-day heat wave today, with temperatures in parts of England reaching 33 degrees. London's Heathrow was the hottest place in the UK, reaching 33.1 degrees Celsius, closely followed by St James's Park at 33. It comes as most of England is subject to an amber health heat alert, meaning the entire population, the NHS and transportation is likely to be affected. That alert's now been extended until Wednesday. And those are the latest headlines. For now, more news in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good evening to you. Welcome to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Ben Leo, just for this evening. I'm going to share with you now a GB News exclusive. We've obtained a recording that lays bare the fractious relationship between French officials and British Border Force on the front line of the small boats crisis on the English Channel. It was recorded on a very busy day of crossings on Sunday morning.
Could you prepare your seaboats, as we have no support and we have significant overloading on this migrant vessel? Over.
Yes, we will launching our rescue boat. And can you get the life jacket of the MiG, please?
The MiG. It's okay for that boat. And can you get our life jacket back, please?
MiG volunteer, that's understood. We'll give you your life jackets back. Can you please send your seaboats to assist? Over.
It's okay.
So, just to clarify, British Border Force radio the French asking for help with a dangerously overcrowded migrant vessel in the Channel, and it seems, in my opinion, just from listening to that audio, that the French's biggest concern is getting their life jackets back. Why? Why are they more so concerned about getting life jackets back that we know they give to migrants, it was revealed weeks and weeks ago, than dealing with the actual problem of strange men from faraway lands crossing the English Channel into Great Britain? Just a few weeks ago, Home Secretary Yvette Cooper was trumpeting a massive diplomatic breakthrough with the French.
France has now agreed that they will now start to intervene in French waters in order to prevent small boats. That hasn't happened yet, but the previous government spent 6 years trying to persuade them. They have now agreed as a result of the pressure that we've been putting on, the discussions that we have had, and we need that to start.
But that tense recording that we just played you really blows apart the government's claims that they're making inroads with the French. And despite all the money we give them, £450 million over the course of 3 years, the diplomatic rhetoric that they're going to help, you can hear from that audio recording that tensions are still running high. And if you ask me, it seems like Border Force are just completely and utterly exasperated with their French counterparts. And the small boat crisis, of course, is only getting worse. Let's get an update on some rather disturbing developments today on the Channel from GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White. Mark, good evening. It's been a hell of a day on the Channel. Just bring us up to date, will you, please?
Well, we knew it was going to be a busy day. We are basically experiencing a series of what they call red days, which means effectively the conditions are flat calm and the migrant boats are likely to come across the Channel. And that's exactly what happened. Our sources suggested we could get up to 900 small boats crossing today. And sure enough, we just got the final Border Force vessel coming into Dover Harbour at 9 o'clock this evening, and that took the tally to 880 small boat migrants for the day, so just shy of that 900 prediction. 14, we believe, perhaps even 15 small boats made the crossing today. And it started early in the day. We've got some images we can show you on the other side of the Channel there of the migrants now wading out for their taxi boat, they call them. They come out usually from rivers just further along the coastline, and then the migrants will get on board the vessels are weighed out waist deep, even neck deep at times when they're trying to get out and onto the boats there. Now, you heard Yvette Cooper saying that she is going to move, or has moved, the French to start pushing back these boats. However, we can reveal that the French government have been taken to court by an activist group. So it's by no means certain that this tactic that was supposed to start in July, just this month basically, or tomorrow I think, is perhaps on hold until that court case is over. We can also show you some other images of discarded items on the beach. Now, they include Indian money there, also mobile phones, an array of smartphones that have also just been dumped by the migrants, and also passports. One particular passport that we found that is from Somalia. And the reason these items are discarded on the beach is because the migrants are told to do that by the people smugglers, so that they can effectively invent a backstory that ensures that they have a better chance of being able to stay, to be granted asylum. And so throughout today, I was down in Dover again on the cliff top there, the hottest day of the year, watching these boats coming in. This was the Ramsgate lifeboat, absolutely rammed to the gunwales. 72 migrants on board that particular RNLI lifeboat. 2 lifeboats were called out, 3 in fact, Dungeness this evening as well, to assist Border Force, because there were just so many small boats crossing during the course of the day. And we're expecting relatively good weather in the Channel, so we could get a few hundred more crossing again tomorrow.
Mark, thank you for that rather... I mean, it just goes on and on, doesn't it? Every time I speak to you, it's another disturbing, chilling, quite frankly, development. Thank you for the update, although it probably wasn't very welcomed by our viewers, but we appreciate you anyway, Mark White, GBNews Home and Security Editor. Right, let's get the thoughts of my panel now. The Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, the former chair of the Conservative Party, Sir Jake Berry, and the journalist and broadcaster Benjamin Butterworth. Welcome back, panel. Carol, why would the French be more concerned about getting their damn life jackets back than dealing with an overcrowded migrant vessel?
Because they're taking us for mugs, and we are being mugs to them. You know, in the last 10 years, we've spent the thick end of £1 billion. We've given that to France to help stop the boats and to help deal with the migrant problem. And they're not doing it. 480 million on the latest deal, and they're just taking the mickey out of us. And it's just, you know, it just seems beyond me. You know, 1,000 on Sunday, 900 today, 14 boats today, and they even call it their taxi boat. And then, and you know, then you have the Border Force taking them on board as well. And it's just, I'm watching. Look at this filming now.
Look at these pictures, Carol.
I'm watching.
Let's play a game of Where's Wally? Spot the women and children.
Yes, I saw on all the filming we've put out tonight, I've seen one woman in the water.
Benjamin, how many can you spot?
Being taken for mugs.
Well, I don't like to assume their gender, Ben. So,
oh, don't be ridiculous. We can see it's one woman. But, you know, we've got to stop depending on France to secure our borders. We have to do that ourselves. And to do that, we have to stop giving them the incentives to come here. We have to stop the benefits, stop the houses. All those people on those boats today have to have somewhere to live in the next few months. So it's going to be a hotel, it's going to be a flat, it's going to be a room in someone's house. And people in this country who are living on the streets don't get the luxury of that. It's just not fair.
Benjamin, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, there's no doubt that it's alarming and that it's wrong. But the question is how you resolve it. And anybody who says the answer to that does not involve France, does not involve working with European countries, is mistaken. Because
but they don't want the problem to end.
Well, they do want the problem to end. They just don't want it to be there.
In France.
Yeah,
they don't care if it comes to Britain. They don't care. They despise us.
But I'm afraid you have to work with them because they are the other essential partner in solving this. And so that's why it's so important. And that's why I think the Labour government is pursuing a one-in, one-out policy.
Which is ludicrous.
Which would say that people who come here with absolutely no claim to asylum would be sent back to France, and people with a legitimate claim, such as a relative who lives in the UK, will get a claim here. Now, that would do miracles to clear the backlog of hotels and housing bills.
Believe Labour are going to send people back to France? Do you seriously believe that?
Well, yes, they've proposed that idea.
Is that before or after they smashed the gangs? I mean, this country is being invaded. It is a slow-motion invasion of men who we know nothing about come into this country. I know that's pejorative language. I know people say you shouldn't use that sort of language. We are subject to invasion. 80 years ago, a few plucky Brits could stop the entire Nazi army crossing the Channel to invade our country. Now, we can't stop a few dinghies. It is an absolute disgrace. And the French are taking us, as Carol says, as mugs. They've had £500 million almost
$1 billion in 10 years.
£1 billion in 10 years, £500 million since the general election to stop this. And they are just waving these people through. And the final thing I'd say is, for those people at home who, at Christmas, like I used to do, buy the Royal National Lifeboat Institution Christmas cards. I don't know about anyone else, but I won't be buying them this year when I know they've got a job to do. Then they're bringing boats groaning with people into this country. The government's got no plan to stop this. This is seriously dangerous for our country, seriously dangerous for society. It has to stop.
Can I just say, sorry, are you suggesting that a dinghy midway across the Channel that is in crisis, that the RNLI should not save those people?
All I'm suggesting is people have a choice about whether they support them. I'm not going to support a charity that is facilitating bringing people into the UK, is facilitating this was
I think Britain is better than that, and the RNLI is better than that.
Well, OK, well,
the City today was flat calm. They didn't have to do it. And the fool Starmer said at the G7, you know, he was boasting that we are leading the world in tackling illegal immigration. What planet is he living on?
It's up 45%.
We're the laughing stock of the world in terms of our immigration. You know, Denmark sorted their problem by... They cut immigration by 90% in a year. And what they did was they took all the money off them when they came. They said if your asylum... They gave them benefits for a couple of months. They said if your asylum claim fails, you get all your benefits stopped. We put you in a detention centre in the middle of nowhere and we'll give you just food. And all of them went home. So why aren't we doing that?
And
That's a really simple
They're all working
solution.
in the UK. One thing which was positive today, there was a big border force raid, if you like, on these migrant hotels where people are working as Deliveroo drivers.
Do you know what? I don't really care about that.
But I don't care that they're working. I think at least they're contributing at that point.
They're not paying tax.
They're not allowed to work by law.
I don't want them working, but I just think it's a bit of a red herring. So, OK, we've busted some migrants working for Deliveroo. They should not be here in the first place. I disagree with you on one point, Sir Jake, which is you called it a slow-paced invasion. It's not slow. It's at full throttle. The Roman invasion of England was something like 20 to 30,000 soldiers. OK, this is 20 to 30,000 probably every 8 months or so.
It's going to be more than 50
The global proportions might have changed a little bit since then. But, I mean, I'm afraid that, you know, a bit of responsibility wouldn't go a long way. This started in 2018.
Actually, I'm not saying the government got it all right. I actually think the Conservative government, the Rwanda plan was at least a plan.
It was a deterrent.
The Labour, you can have a debate about whether it's going to work, but it actually brought numbers down. Since Keir Starmer came to power with his plan to smash the gangs, and now they're one in, one out, it's gone up by 45%. Whatever the Conservatives did, which I'm not saying was, you know, I'm not saying we got everything right.
It's even worse
It
now.
is getting worse under this Labour government, which was elected on a mandate to smash the gangs, which they failed to do.
The idea that these people could come here, could get benefits, could maybe illegally get a job, was established under a Conservative government, and now we've got to try and undo them.
They can stop it. They're not stopping it.
Tory government. What is Labour doing to stop that?
Correct.
We pay £1 billion a month in this country on benefits for... we do. In benefits for migrants. It's outrageous.
I mean, they get £40 a week. I don't think that's life changing.
These people, they get more than four. It's not the benefit that the money they get in the hand. It's what it's
NHS
costing.
dentist,
all of
free house, access to a GP.
It's not 40 quid to pay for your housing, your healthcare.
I'd like to see any of you live on 40 quid for everything else.
They're not living on 40 quid. They're getting a free house. They're getting free food. They're getting free everything. And when they live in a hotel, they get their laundry done. They get free gyms. All of it. So I'm sorry, people in this country are quite rightly furious about this. You see those people? They're not fleeing war and persecution.
Well, you don't know that at all.
I do know that.
You don't know that.
Well, they're not There's no war in France.
The passport that Mark White showed was of Somalia, which is a country at war. So that proves that they're
why don't they just stop in France then? Because there's no war in France.
France takes almost 3 times as many as we do.
Stay in France. It's a safe country. Then they've passed through many other safe countries before that.
Lots of Brits actually go on holiday to France. It's not meant to be that bad a place.
Let's not play silly buggers. They come to Britain because you get free dentistry, you get free this and that, you get £40 a week or whatever it is on an Aspen card from the Home Office, you get your free hotel, your free Wi-Fi, you get your free food, you get to wander off into town on a free bus to go and buy some shopping with your free money. It's a land of milk and honey.
Pay no tax. What's there not to love?
Right, let's move on. Bit of a gear change. Time now for the Great British Giveaway. Your chance for some free money for once. Yes, £54,321 up for grabs in the latest prize giveaway, and it's tax-free, of course, as well. Here's all the details you need to win.
The Great British Giveaway is now even greater, with your chance to win our biggest cash prize so far. A totally tax-free £54,321 cash could be yours. Cash that you could spend however you like. It's like having an extra £1,000 each week for a whole year to play with. Imagine what you could do with that. Someone is guaranteed to win this amazing amount of cash, so make sure that someone could be you. For another chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Right, good luck to you. Coming up, I'll have all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages, hot off the press. There's some massive stories on there as well, so you want to stick around for that. And, by the way, what do you think is going on here?
哨声，这场练习赛是正式开始了。我们可以看到是红队率先。
Before that, some major breaking news about the royal family's finances. Are we witnessing the decline of the monarchy? Harry and Meghan, I'm guessing, will probably be celebrating this news. I'll reveal all shortly. Don't go anywhere.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Tell me now, are you concerned about these driverless cars, Tim, that are going to be put into operation in London by as early as next year?
Well, Uber is preparing to test fully self-driving taxis on London's roads for the first time. By 2026, I have an observation there that if you look at Elon Musk over the last 5 or 6 years, kept promising that there were going to be driverless cars. The norm in America, and it hasn't happened yet. So I'd be very surprised if by 2026 that's actually on the streets of London. I'm more intrigued, though, if they are driverless robotic cars, if they're still going to give you a review. You know, you get your 5 stars at the end if you were a good passenger. Who's going to review how good you are once you're in these cars?
Would you trust it? Would you take one?
I think I would, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Really?
Would you, Claire?
I know, I'm a bit reticent.
I'm a bit nervous about it.
Yeah, accepting a driverless
I think
car.
what they do eventually is they'll take any joy out of driving that there is. You get you won't get in, you feel the smell, get the gear stick. You know, I mean, a car is a great joyous thing
I don't take any joy from
to drive.
Yeah.
I take no joy. It's awful.
What?
Such a chore.
Is that because
driving?
Are you a good driver?
No, I'm a terrible
driver.
driver.
Why?
So maybe this could be a good thing for me.
I think it's
And we need to see the other side of
drivers that take the joy out of it sometimes.
Oh, I just think, you imagine a glitch in the Matrix with a driverless car.
Oh,
what on
I know.
earth
You'd have
could
to hop in
happen?
the
Well, you and
front
I
seat.
live in Chiswick,
Yeah.
and the Chiswick High Road, like lots of high roads in many towns and villages.
Well, it's the bus
across-
lanes that's a problem with
Well, they've
Chiswick High
closed
Road.
all those down now, and if an ambulance goes down, there is carnage trying to get through to whoever they're needing to treat.
Or in King
So
Street,
it's
if a bus
dangerous.
tries to overtake a bus or anything else, you can't do it.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
So breaking news for you on Patrick Christys tonight. King Charles is set to wave goodbye to the royal train as the monarch looks to save money. The King has signed off plans to decommission the royal train by the end of 2027, which is when the current maintenance contract comes to an end. And the royal family will use instead 2 new helicopters. The decision has been described as an example of the royal household showing fiscal discipline. The train was the late Queen's favourite way of travel, but cost between £25,000 and £30,000 per trip, depending on where the late Queen was going. The current model came into service in 1977, and there's always been a royal train since 1842. Well, I'm joined now by former royal correspondent Jenny Bond. Jenny, good evening. Thank you for joining me. Seems a little sad to be getting rid of this, especially when it's, look, no secret, I'm a big fan of the late Queen Elizabeth, but especially when it was one of her, favourite modes of transport.
Yeah, but this is the palace realising that times have moved on, things have changed, and they have to be more accountable. It was an extraordinarily extravagant way to travel. It was a favourite of the late Queen's. And I don't know if you've ever been on a sleeper train, but it's really rather fun to sleep on the train as you go through the countryside and you arrive fresh and bright the next morning for an engagement. And she did love to do that, but it actually wasn't used that often in her reign, and much less in Charles's. I mean, it was used quite recently after the pandemic by Catherine and William to go around the country. And there's really quite something special about seeing the train arrive at a platform after platform, and they can get around the country quickly that way. But it's just too damned expensive. It costs about £10 more per mile than a standard rail ticket, and it's nonsense.
Yeah, I don't know. It looks good though. It was extravagant and grand. Jenny, the sovereign grant accounts have been released. Royal travel has increased by £500,000 to £4.7 million. Who's responsible for that? Who are we going to blame for increased royal travel?
We have to blame anyone. This is the cost of getting around the country when you have the security detail that they need and the recce's that have to take place. Of course, these accounts take into account the fact that they went to Australia and Samoa, and that was very expensive. That's the King and Camilla. So it's an expensive old job getting them around the country, but they are aware that they've got to slim down their costs and slim down the monarchy. And this decision, quite a historic one, to get rid of this train, which Queen Victoria was the first monarch to travel on, and it has a great history about it. It's quite a big move by Charles to do it, but entirely correct. I think now they need to cut down their property portfolio as well.
Yeah, potentially. What do we know about the future of the train? Where's it going to go? Any idea where it may go? Maybe a museum or something?
Yeah, I mean, there have been various sort of iterations of the royal train since Queen Victoria, and the previous train that she used is now in a museum, and I think, or parts of it are, and I think maybe there will be some historic merit to this one as well, and people might like to go visit as they go to the Royal Yacht Britannia. I mean, quite something. I've never actually managed to go on board the royal train. I did go on Britannia, but it'd be quite nice to have a little look around and see where they slept and look at the bathrooms and the kitchens and the dining room. I mean, it was quite something.
Yeah, talking of Britannia, Jenny, so that's obviously gone as well. Which government was responsible for getting rid of that?
That was, now you're testing me.
Was it Labour? Was it Blair?
I think it was the Labour government. It very upset Prince Philip, and it upset the Queen. Queen understood it, I think, more than Philip really did. But that was the time when I was there for the decommissioning of the Royal Yacht Britannia. And it was just after the death of Diana, so it was 1997 in the winter. And she did shed a tear there. It's the first time I've seen her shed a tear. I mean, the palace said a very cold day and she was just wiping her eye, but I think she was profoundly upset by that, as she would probably be with the royal chamber. But Charles is a much more practical chap, and he absolutely accepts that this is the way it's got to be.
So just finally, we've got 2 new choppers in the royal fold, 2 new helicopters. Why helicopters? Just because, am I correct in saying the king is quite fond of choppers?
Yeah. I mean, he is. It's obviously a very efficient way to get around the country. The Queen didn't like travelling by helicopter very much at all, but she did get used to it. But for the King, it's just part and parcel of royal life. It's an easy way to get around. Again, very expensive. Some will say very extravagant. But if we want to see our royal family cover as much ground as possible, as quickly as possible, then they have to not get stuck in the traffic that the rest of us get stuck in.
Yeah, indeed. All right, Jenny Bond, really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Enjoyed your company. We'll speak soon. Right, coming up, the very first of tomorrow's newspaper front pages have just landed, hot off the press, and to be frank, there's one story dominating. BBC boss Tim Davie fighting for his job tonight after the Glastonbury fiasco. There are reports that he was involved in some of the decision-making with regards to streaming the performance on Live Player. He was at the festival as well. We don't know yet whether he was partying or there in a work aspect. The BBC, of course, had plenty of workers down there, so maybe he was working. And Lisa Nandy, the culture secretary, even called him to ask what the hell was going on with that Bob Vylan performance, and Tim Davie was at this festival site at the time of the call. We'll get stuck into that in just a tick with all the front pages. Don't go anywhere.
Good evening. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, it is going to be another warm and uncomfortably humid night for many places towards the southeast, but we do have some fresher air starting to make its way in. The fresher air is behind a frontal system which is lingering across northern and western parts at the moment. That's already brought a fair amount of rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland today, and we're going to see some more rain for a little while yet, but the front is going to ease, so that rain breaking up as it edges into parts of northern England overnight. Away from the band of rain towards the southeast, lots of dry weather, some clear skies, but it is going to be warm, it's going to be humid, some places staying above 20 Celsius, so a difficult night for sleeping for some. Meanwhile, towards the northwest, like I said, there's some fresher air coming in, so it's actually going to be a bit cooler here first thing on Tuesday morning, and quite bright and sunny across parts of northern and western Scotland, also across Northern Ireland too. For eastern and southern Scotland, and also across parts of northern England into northern and western Wales. A bit more cloud around, could be some outbreaks of rain coming and going as well. But across the rest of England and Wales, a fine start to the day. Yes, it is going to be warm first thing, but there will also be plenty of sunshine on offer as well. As we go through the day, lots of sunshine continuing, particularly towards the southeast. Plenty of sunshine here, and with that hot air, we're going to see temperatures rising, perhaps even higher than today. 35, 36 Celsius, not out of the question. A bit fresher towards the north and west, and watch out for some heavy showery bursts developing, particularly across parts of northern England and southern Scotland. Some further showery rain across the eastern parts as we go through into Wednesday, even some showery bursts pushing into parts of the southeast, and a few scattered showers coming in from the west northwest later as well. But in between those zones, another largely fine day for many on Wednesday, but a markedly fresher feel for many as some cooler air starts to make its way in, with some more changeable weather later this week.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back, to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Ben Leo, only on GB News. The first front pages have just dropped. Let's start with the Metro. The headline reads, "The Vivian's tragic last hours. 5 bags of ketamine discovered in the home where addicts likely lay in Bath for 2 days." This was the death of TV favourite The Vivian, who won the first series of RuPaul's Drag Race UK. The Independent, Labour in chaos as rebels demand more welfare concessions. So this is the big vote tomorrow. All eyes on the Commons. Keir Starmer under fresh pressure from backbenchers and senior party figures over, quote, cruel cuts, despite his humiliating £2.5 billion U-turn. Rebels, as we discussed in the previous hour, still not happy with the Prime Minister. The Daily Express. BBC boss has to act now or resign. So BBC boss Tim Davie was last night told to sack those responsible or resign himself over the Glastonbury IDF chant scandal. We'll discuss that in just a tick. And a nice picture there of British tennis player Emma Raducanu, who's leading the charge of winners at Wimbledon. Talking of Wimbledon, there's Katie Bolter, the British women's number 2, who beat the number 9 seed today. Well done, Katie. But the more important story, BBC boss at Festival for Rappers Hate Chant, Tim Davie, it's been revealed tonight, was at Glastonbury over the weekend during Bob Vylan's controversial performance. And Carol Malone, welcome back. Benjamin Butterworth, Jake Lowe. Lisa Nandy, the Culture Secretary, called Tim Davie.
And he's there.
He's there, partying or working, I don't know, probably partying because the Beeb had lots of producers down there. But he was there and she said, what the hell's going on? And he happened to be there on site.
You know what, if you're the boss of something, and it's something like Glastonbury, you should have a plan in place. When you put that band Kneecap on, and the warm-up band as this punk group was violencing, when you put them on, you know it's going to kick off. You know it's going to happen. So you would have a plan in place if something happened. And they didn't have a plan in place, which strikes me as incredible. The musical director of the BBC is a woman called Lorna Clark, and I'm wondering if she was there too. Probably was. She's on 250 grand a year. She would have been in charge of the music there, knowing what was happening. So why didn't she pull the plug either? Why wasn't there anything in place to stop this? Because it stayed on live stream for 5 hours after the thing had finished. So they just don't care. You know, we spend so long criticising the BBC, saying it's partisan, saying their reporting is biased, and yet we do nothing about it. This has to be a line in the sand, because we had someone on a stage, and bear in mind, Tim Davie just last week sent an email to all employees saying they could not film hate speech, they could not transmit hate speech, and there he is standing where it's actually happening and doing sod all about it. Yeah. So either his head has to roll, or Lorna Clark's head has to roll, or somebody does, because you can't have people shouting for the murder of Jewish people in this country.
Yeah, and there's a key line in here, Benjamin. It says in the Telegraph story tomorrow, it says, sources have stressed that pulling the live stream was not discussed. But a spokesman said that in hindsight, it regretted this decision was not taken.
I mean, you know, what's concerning, Carol raises a very good point, which is that they should have been aware this could happen. This act, Bob Vylan, which none of us had heard of, they're not famous, they don't have a following.
Bob.
They were on before Kneecap, which is the group that's had so many headlines. And so they ought to have gone through that schedule and said, well, who else is liable to make these comments? What do we do if something like this ends up on air? You know, the Daily Express front page says, BBC boss has to act now or resign, i.e. hold the people that made the decision accountable. Well, if he was at Glastonbury, if he was consulted, as the Daily Telegraph says, actually, those people that didn't pull it off air, if they'd consulted the boss, well, then the person responsible is him, not the juniors.
Yeah, and you great point, actually, about the fact that Bob Vylan, the morons, were on before Kneecap. So Kneecap weren't given the time of day by the BBC. The BBC knew about them.
No, so did I.
The BBC knew about Kneecap, obviously, but I argued last night the BBC also knew about Bob Vylan and particularly the lead singer, because they've been championing this guy since 2006. And he was on their website. He performed in 2022 at Glastonbury in a BBC studio where he talked about digging up the corpse of Margaret Thatcher. There's videos online of the lead singer threatening to punch hecklers at a gig. So the BBC should have known about this guy.
They should have come with a big health warning. But this is the left-wing BBC sort of fetishising the Glastonbury Festival, which has become a political event. A few years ago, they had Jeremy Corbyn speaking on stage. They have got a sort of left-wing fetish about what happens at Glastonbury. And, you know, if you're a Jewish person in the United Kingdom and your state broadcaster, an arm of the state, was broadcasting a group calling for people to kill Jews, how would you feel this evening? It's like the Nuremberg rally or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a crowd of people getting completely carried away with anti-Semitism, being broadcast by the BBC. The person who should go is the head. It shouldn't be a deputy head role. It shouldn't be an internal investigation. It shouldn't be marking their homework again. If people do not pay the price for this, well,
Jake,
then the BBC's got to
We have Avon and Somerset Police who are reviewing the evidence on this. It's taken them all day to review the evidence, which is clear for the whole world to see. And I'll even bet your sweet life they're looking for a way not to prosecute him. Now, if Lucy Connolly, and we know who Lucy Connolly is, got 31 months for posting, yes, a vile tweet, which she almost immediately deleted.
I don't think it was that vile.
It was quite vile.
She said, for all I care.
Yeah, she was calling for migrant hotels to be...
It was bad. I don't think it was vile.
It was bad, but she was put in prison for 31 months. So this violence should be put in prison for... I keep on calling it violent. It's violent. Should be put in prison for an awful lot longer. And especially when Davis last week said you could not broadcast hate. It's astonishing that in this country, you know, it's not just Jewish people who are disgusted by this. It's all of us, because we see echoes of what has happened before in the past. We know what could be coming. And a lot of those people shouting for the death of Jews wouldn't be able to find Gaza on a map if they...
Well, do you know what? Isn't the greatest irony is that if there'd been a music festival in Israel, Hamas might have come over the horizon and shot them. All these young people partying away at Glastonbury, you know, there was people doing that in Israel on October the 7th and they were murdered by Hamas. I mean, these people are glorifying.
What do you think this festival would have celebrated and commemorated the people who died at that festival?
Correct.
You think they would have done that rather than calling for the death of Jews?
I mean, in a sense, maybe we should be grateful for the freedom of speech because it reveals just how bad the problem is that people cheered along with something so vile. What I'd say for the BBC, the real question about how they go forward with the Glastonbury is because I do think they should air it. It is very popular. It gets fantastic ratings when they have Rod Stewart and Dua Lipa and big name acts there, and it's probably good value for money because they use it everywhere. But the question is, now that Glastonbury is so political and one particular type of politics, is it OK that just because they're saying that on a music festival that the BBC broadcasts those views? And I don't think it is. It's clearly not within the BBC's impartiality.
Freedom of speech does not entitle you to incite murder.
No.
It just doesn't. So the freedom of speech argument doesn't work.
And the BBC itself may be held criminally culpable.
I hope so.
For broadcasting hate speech.
I think that I got an email today because last night on my show I said I think that's a step too far. I don't think broadcasters should be held criminally responsible for stuff that, yes, they made a massive mistake by not pulling
But
that
that's
stream.
what the law says. I said they may be held criminally.
Could you imagine?
By that logic,
broadcasting hate speech is a crime.
Could you imagine if we had a guest on GBNews who went AWOL and said some stupid stuff on air and then...
Well, isn't that why you have the ability to pull the plug on people, which the BBC didn't do in this case?
But also there's a top lawyer...
I think it's dangerous territory when you start...
But can I just point out, if someone swears on a programme it's broadcast, they can get a fine from Ofcom because it's a breach of those rules.
Exactly.
So why can you get a 10 grand fine for saying the F word, but not for calling for the death of Jewish people? I think that would be the question.
And a top lawyer, a guy called Lord Carlisle, said today that they could well have committed a criminal offence, the BBC.
The BBC?
So if they do commit a criminal offence and they're supposed to be responsible as the state broadcaster, yes, they should be prosecuted. I say again, if Lucy Connolly is prosecuted, the BBC should be too. Why not?
OK, on the claims that Tim Davie made the decision to keep Bob Villan on iPlayer, a spokesman told GB News this is categorically untrue. The Director-General was informed of the incident after the performance, and at that point he was clear it should not feature in any other Glastonbury coverage. Speaking more generally about the incident, a BBC spokesperson has said the performance was part of a live stream of the Westholt stage on BBC iPlayer. The judgment on Saturday to issue a warning on screen while streaming online was in line with our editorial guidelines. In addition, we took the decision not to make the performance available on demand. The team were dealing with a live situation, but we should have pulled the stream during the performance. We regret this did not happen. And in light of this weekend, we'll look at our guidance around live events so we can be sure teams are clear on when it's acceptable to keep output on air.
That is so disgusting.
Checking their own homework again. Internal investigation,
Absolutely.
brushed under the carpet.
OK, right, we're going to move on. Coming up, there's some breaking news on the front page of the Sun newspaper. Police have raided a migrant hotel. I think it's for Jake Berry. You mentioned this in the last couple of minutes. Police have raided a migrant hotel after catching migrants working illegally for the likes of Uber Eats, Deliveroo, so on and so on. That's next. Don't go anywhere.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
Well, how about meeting the new ABBA? It's what a lot of people are calling Dad Harmony. It's a new Swedish a cappella group that are the biggest TikTok sensation you can imagine. They are everywhere at the moment, and they join us now. Really good to see you all. With us, we have this morning Thomas, Michael, Sebastian, Peter and Adam. Not necessarily in that order, but I know. There we go. Gents, it's really good to see you. I've got to ask, first and foremost, how did you get started? How do you even get together and think, this is something we can do?
Yeah, it's actually all of a coincidence, to be honest. It was, we were friends, but we were Peter had a bachelor party. And like 10 p.m. or something, we started to sing. And I recorded that song. And for some reason, I put it out on my TikTok account with like 7 followers or something. And then it blew up and got like, the first video got 22 million views, I think.
Beautiful.
Just
really
gorgeous.
beautiful. GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. That's State of the Nation every Monday and Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight with me, Ben Leo. Just for this evening, more front pages have just dropped. Let's start with the Eye. The headline reads, number 10 in final push to win over Rebel MPs ahead of the welfare vote tomorrow. Keir Starmer faces his biggest rebellion as dozens of Labour MPs defy him over benefits. The Daily Mail front page is similar. Rebel MPs are set to humiliate the Prime Minister today. So Sir Keir Starmer, it says, will be hit by the biggest rebellion of his premiership. His attempts to win over welfare bill rebels fell flat yesterday in a major blow to his authority days before the anniversary of his landslide election victory. The Sun. Did somebody say just nicked? Cops raid on migrant riders after Sun expose. So immigration cops began cracking down on illegal delivery riders yesterday after the Sun blew the lid on a nationwide racket. And the Guardian, Labour bid to woo rebels descends into chaos on the eve of the welfare vote. So it says Downing Street's plans to see off a major Labour welfare rebellion were in chaos last night amid continued brinksmanship between MPs and the government over the scale of the concessions. And there's a nice snap of Emma Raducanu there after her win at Wimbledon today. Well done, Emma. And the Times. The NHS will prioritise UK doctors and nurses. A 10-year plan curbs recruitment from overseas. What is it with these 10-year plans? I mean, Labour seems to have massive confidence that they'll be around in 10 years.
They're 2.5 general elections away, aren't they? That's why there was a 10-year plan.
It's the opposite. They know they're not going to be here,
They can say what they want, can't they? They can say, yeah, in 10 years we'll reduce migration by 10 million.
Famously, Boris Johnson said, I'm preparing for 10 years in Downing Street right before it all went wrong. So it's not a good omen. OK,
should we discuss the Mail front page and indeed the Eye? So Rebel MPs, Carol, are set to humiliate the Prime Minister tomorrow in this massive vote. It's the biggest rebellion of his premiership.
It is a rebellion he didn't see coming because he was too busy grandstanding abroad trying to be the statesman he'll never be. I think it's curtains him. I really do think it's the end of him as leader. The only thing that could save his backside, I suppose, is if the Tories vote with him, and that could have the bill passed, of course. But the problem, we still have the problem, even with all these Rebel MPs, and they were going to save, even if the £5 billion worth of cuts had gone through, it was nothing on a £313 welfare bill. And now we know that less than half are going to be, I think it's about £2 billion that are going to go through now. But even if the £5 billion had gone through, this year's welfare bill would have still been £8 billion more than last year's. This is an out-of-control bill. And who's going to pay for it? I mean, people have every right to be furious about it, but I think it might go through if Badenoch gets her troops on his side.
Maybe I think Kemi Badenoch has said they probably will vote.
She said she would.
She said today she's going to vote against it.
Right, OK.
And the reason
is
she wants a guarantee that this sort of U-turn by the Labour government won't lead to more taxes in the budget this autumn. I've got some news for you. I don't think this is going to be a surprise to GB News viewers. There's going to be big tax increases at the budget because they've wiped £2.5 billion off their proposed welfare cuts, which is barely, as Carol says, scratching the surface. They've had to give £1.5 billion back on the winter fuel payment. I actually think that's the right thing to do.
Yep.
This government does not have a plan to bring public spending under control. And if that doesn't happen, it is GB News viewers, the great British public, who are going to be paying the price. Keir Starmer's lost control of his own parliamentary party.
What taxes do you think will be going up then? I mean, it seems like they've just raided every avenue already.
I rather suspect they're going to do a longer-term freeze on income tax thresholds. And then I think all sorts of other stealth taxes will be put up as well. They have such big spending plans. They've given so much in terms of public sector pay rises, particularly to people like junior doctors who got 20% pay rise. 22. But none of it was linked, as it has been in the past, to improving services. You cannot spend yourself rich. Throwing money at the NHS does not improve the NHS. You've got to have a real plan to improve it, and that's where the government's fallen down.
So only one point of that we know is wrong, because the government, Rachel Reeves, has already said that the freeze on the 40p rate, which was the Tories had put in place, will end. So that will start to rise, so you won't get people being dragged in at the rate they are at the moment. They've already announced that, I think, for 2027-28. But on a broader level, what
I tell you what, I bet she changes her mind, though. You can't trust a word she says.
We'll see. Well, we might not be hearing the job by that point. But I think what you're seeing on a political level here, take out the ins and outs of welfare, which is rising far too fast to be manageable for this country, is the political problem that although he's got this 200-plus majority, most of those people have remarkably, historically thin majorities on that scale. And so you've got a situation whereby lots of these people are incredibly anxious about the chances of keeping their seats because they've got a 1,000 vote majority. And so when it gets to these contentious issues, it doesn't feel like you have a big parliamentary landslide at all.
Yeah, indeed. So what happens tomorrow then, Benjamin, if and when Sir Keir Starmer is utterly humiliated in the Commons, he loses, the Rebels win, where do we stand? You don't think there's a leadership battle on the cards?
Well, he's not going to lose, right? I'm absolutely confident of that, because I think a lot of these people would feel that they've made their point so far. The things that would have been worrying them are their local Labour members, the charities and the trade unions that will have lobbied them heavily over this. That will be on their mind. They've made their point at this point. The idea that they're going to try and bring down the government, they know full well would cause them far more problems than resolutions.
They're not going to try and bring down the government. They're going to try and bring down him.
But that would be the same thing.
Well, but it's not the same thing. They'll just have a leadership race and someone else will take his place.
I do think he'll win, because we have a parliament that's full of MPs who don't have the political guts to stand up for what they believe in. And we have a government, i.e. the Prime Minister and his team, who don't have the political guts to stand by what they believe in. So the people who really lose or Labour MPs of the Labour Party, it's the British public. I'm sorry.
OK, well, he's often described as a bit robotic, Sir Keir Starmer, which is a nice segue into our viral clip, which I'll share with you before we say goodnight, temporarily before late edition. Modern football has frequently been described as robotic, of course, but this, I think, is a step too far. So take a look.
哨声，这场练习赛是正式开始了。我们可以看到是红队率先。
Can you spot the Prime Minister in there anywhere? So this is the world's first fully autonomous football tournament. It's held in China, obviously. And judging by the footage on screen, I think Harry Kane can feel confident he won't be replaced by AI, artificial intelligence, anytime soon. 4 teams of robots took each other on in Beijing, and the eventual winner was THU Robotics, who defeated the Mountain Sea in the final 5-3. Congratulations.
It's a team maybe England could beat, though. Come on, that's the upside.
You think?
Yeah, indeed. OK, panel, thank you very much. Carol Malone, Benjamin Butterworth, Sir Jake Berry. Benjamin, you're sticking with us for Patrick Christys tonight, late edition. Thank you for your company so far, viewers at home. Don't go anywhere, though, because, as I said, there's a whole boatload full of news I'll be sharing with you in just a moment in late edition. But before that, let's find out what the weather's in store for tomorrow.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good evening. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now, it is going to be another warm and uncomfortably humid night for many places towards the southeast, but we do have some fresher air starting to make its way in. The fresher air is behind a frontal system which is lingering across northern and western parts at the moment. That's already brought a fair amount of rain across Scotland and Northern Ireland today, and we're going to see some more rain for a little while yet, but the front is going to ease, so that rain breaking up as it edges into parts of northern England overnight. Away from the band of rain towards the southeast, lots of dry weather, some clear skies, but it is going to be warm. It's going to be humid, some places staying above 20 Celsius, so a difficult night for sleeping for some. Meanwhile, towards the northwest, like I said, there's some fresher air coming in, so it's actually going to be a bit cooler here first thing on Tuesday morning, and quite bright and sunny across parts of northern and western Scotland, also across Northern Ireland too. For eastern and southern Scotland, and also across parts of northern England into northern and western Wales, a bit more cloud around, could be some outbreaks of rain coming and going as well, but across the rest of England and Wales, a fine start to the day. Yes, it is going to be warm first thing, but there will also be plenty of sunshine on offer as well. As we go through the day, lots of sunshine continuing, particularly towards the southeast. Plenty of sunshine here, and with that hot air, we're going to see temperatures rising, perhaps even higher than today. 35, 36 Celsius, not out of the question. A bit fresher towards the north and west, and watch out for some heavy showery bursts developing, particularly across parts of northern England and southern Scotland. Some further showery rain across the eastern parts as we go through into Wednesday, even some showery bursts pushing into parts of the southeast, and a few scattered showers coming in from the west northwest later as well. But in between those zones, another largely fine day for many on Wednesday, but a markedly fresher feel for many as some cooler air starts to make its way in, with some more changeable weather later this week.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The party's not over here on Patrick Christys tonight. Late edition is coming up, and I'm joined by a very special guest very imminently, Sebastian Gorka, the US Director of